Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. I failed myself. And hi, if you've never met me before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And I literally just woke up. I dozed off at my desk and I failed myself. I didn't come in today, right? I'm here now, fresh like a loaf of bread, but I'm committed to showing up every single day. And in my procrastination, in taking that extra 5 minutes just for myself, and I don't mean to laugh, right? I failed. I failed myself. I don't know how I feel about that in the moment. I suspect that I'm going to give it a little bit, probably quite a bit of contemplation tomorrow, right? Tonight, we're coming in. In that commitment to myself, in holding myself accountable, even though I do fail, but I am human, right? And we have to allow ourselves to fail ourselves because then how do we really get to see and experience what's the word I'm looking for, the results, right? The That's not really the word that I was looking for, but the feedback, the the finishing outlook of what we're trying to accomplish without those examples, right? Without those stumbles, without recognizing, right, that I'm still holding myself accountable, right? I woke up, I was dozing, I was dozed right off. I even have a cold cup of coffee sitting in front of me that I had made specifically for my live show, and I sat down there and I just conked out like that. But I show up. I'm here anyway, in that vulnerability, because I'm here to be that example of holding yourself accountable, right? In showing up. It's part of my perseverance. It's my namesake. It's that you're not taking the fact that I have never missed a day of work away from me. Why? Because I've never missed a day of work, right? I needed that example tonight in not showing up because I'm showing up right now. And this is what I'm paying attention to, right? I could have huffed at myself a little bit and just said, well, what's the point of going live tonight? What? Wait, you missed it out. It's going to count as right. I even wrote today, August 1st. This is supposed to be July 31st live show. I'll be back, right? This afternoon. Tonight, I'm showing up in that little bit of an apology for those who, right, do pop in, do rely, and do depend that I am going to show up. You're used to me coming in at quarter to 12 or 5 minutes to 12. I don't show up by 12, right? There are people out there that on the norm, if they're up, right, they'll shoot me an email and say, Cindy, where are you? I am grateful for those heads up. They have saved my butt a few times in that little bit of credit that I like to give to myself. That little bit of credit that sets me apart from others who might not even be trying, right? That's that's the perseverance, right? So I thought today, earlier when I was ready to go, I was going to look at this word, and this word, powerful word that we got this week was perseverance, right? To to make sure that we never give up, that no matter what, we are moving forward, even if it's in those baby steps, even if it's in those moments of heartbreak, grief, those moments that totally enable us. Is that the word? Not enable us, disable us. Disable us from what we would like to do, right? And it's something that I pride myself on, right? This isn't a little wine fest, but it's something that I want to take note of because it's not something that I want to happen on a consistent basis. And it doesn't matter what the excuses are and what I filled my day up. It doesn't matter if I was super tired that I didn't mean to fall asleep. Part of that accountability, part of that doing a good job, part of that being the evidence is being the example, right? Should have showed up a half an hour ago, right? But I'm showing up, and that's gotta account for something, right? The very least, that determination, if not to make a right wrong, how about in the attempt at showing my apology, showing that I do feel bad in not holding up to those responsibilities that I've taken on for myself. I had a great day today. It was my sister's birthday. Me and my other sister, we went shopping today, got a few things done around the house, and spent some time, right? Shining on on somebody who has lifted me when I couldn't lift myself. And sometimes in that perseverance, right? I was going to say we look at determination, but what if we, as the example of me falling asleep and missing my live on July 31st? What if it's not in that determination, right? What if that what if that perseverance is just the recognition of, right, how we never give up, how we show up for ourselves anyway, and how we show up for other people, right? Was going to look at it in that way, but it's right back at me again. So we're going to look at it in that determination, right? I'm not punishing myself, but because I am of that nature, it would impact me in a way, and it probably will anyway. I'm giving myself a break, right? We're not exactly making a right, a making a wrong a right, but we are holding ourselves accountable, right? And being that example of being a flawed human and, right, try and smile at myself. Okay, enough of that. That perseverance, you guys. Let's look at it in a different manner because it's kind of too close to what, even before I fell asleep at my desk, I was going to look at it in this way, determination, but I keep coming back to failing myself in that. So we're just going to move away from that a little bit. Maybe just kind of look at this word perseverance. How about in a evolutionary manner tonight, right? It's kind of the plan tomorrow to look at it in a evolutionary manner. But we learn from our mistakes, don't we? We get a little bit better by ourselves and by the people who are following suit alongside us. Because truly, right, some of us are leading in that movement forward. Some of us have people who are following us, right? Like me. If I didn't come in and try at least to rectify my failing, those that might be following behind me, right, might say, oh, that's Cindy. She let me down. She let me down. I knew eventually she would let me down, right? I let myself down in that, and I apologize if I let anybody else down in that. But I think quite often we give too much consideration to what other people are possibly thinking, because I do believe my audience would have given me that break. I know my audience would have given me that break. They, right? They get me, they understand me, and they probably know that there was a lesson for me in falling asleep at my desk. And, you know, whether or not that was the intention, right? That was going to happen no matter what, right? It doesn't matter. It was something that was put in place that I've got to take note of, right? Because moving forward, right? It's not something that I want to be as a part of my life. And I suspect I'll fail myself, right? A few more times, maybe more than a few times in my life, right? But the thing is, I'm showing up here, right? So if I fail myself, I'm failing in that moment. And that's got to be evidence. That's got to be evidence too. That has to come to the table, because that's the genuineness of, of an attempt to make some movement, right? Only attempt. Just like it's only an attempt to smooth out a wrong and maybe not turn it into a right, but maybe make it so that I don't beat myself up too much with the guilt and shame tomorrow in that contemplation of, what did you do, Cindy? You're all ready to go with your life. You had your coffee ready. You're ready to go. What happened? What conked you out? Well, lots of things. The heat conked me out. That extra energy that was dispersed today, spending time with my sisters, that little bit of stress and that little bit of party planning, that you want things to turn out well, but because all you could do is plan and then give it up to the plan and see how it all unfolds, right? That stress and that worry and that event is unraveling at the same time. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, in that unraveling of what needs to get done, that release of what's on the plate, that feeling of completion of a project, or the finish of a hard day, right? That sometimes, right, we've got to be good with that, and we let ourselves kind of unravel in that, and each one of us does a little bit something different with that. I do that quite often, that I will disperse every single bit of energy out of myself, right? I go to bed, I am exhausted. But it serves me because I am a good sleeper. I know tonight that, after my live show and I shut her down, I'm just going to crawl into bed. I am going to be out because I totally disperse all that energy in my system, whether it's a fair disbursement or a worthy disbursement, right? That's only up to me and in the choices of, right, showing up for myself and showing up for what my goals and desires are and showing up for this brand. For each one of us, we show up for something different. Maybe you got husbands and kids. Maybe you're taking care of your parents, right? I am grateful I failed myself. Well, I'm not saying I'm grateful for failing myself, right? But if I look at other people's failures and what they do, because you know, I don't have those ties, right? I don't have those husbands and those kids. I have me to be responsible for. But I can't imagine people doing what I'm doing, and there are doing what I'm doing, but they're doing it with kids and careers and husbands and health regimes and bigger goals than mine, right? Bigger ambitions than mine. And that's the stress. And I'm grateful that I hang on those lower spectrums because I understand my limits. I understand if I right? You give me a couple of screaming kids and a demanding husband, and then ask me, right, to show up every day. That life experience that I'm having is going to show up in my lives. That energy or lack of, right, may or may not. Well, for sure it will show up in my lives, but whether I show up in my lives, I'm beating myself up right now. Not really true, beating myself up, right? Kind of maybe a little bit, right? Right? For dozing off. And it's understandable because you got to take into consideration the 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 balancing, the amount of stress, the amount of juggling, right? The hello, Nancy. That's got to be you, dear. I know those hearts. I know those hearts anywhere, right? But let's pull it back to the main branch. And if you hang out with me for any length of time, you know side I go down those side branches quite a bit, right? And showing up, at the very least that I could say that I showed up. I'm showing up without all those other parts of me that have probably called it a night themselves because they saw or they felt that I had nodded off on myself and had called it a day. Little did they know that Cindy, in her own determination, right, in her own perseverance, right, that I showed up and I held myself accountable, right? Trying to think it reminds me a little bit of something in my growing up, just making sure that you just show up no matter what, no matter if you're late, no matter if you don't have the lessons, no matter if you want to be there or you don't want to be there, right? Sometimes we have to hold ourselves accountable that way, you know. Um, it wasn't in any sense of perseverance that I showed up for my life tonight. It was to alleviate some of that self-talk that I know that I would have had with myself if I didn't show up. Wouldn't think of it tonight because I would have crashed. But in the morning, it would have been the first thing that I had on my mind, and you can guarantee it, I would have been here, right, bright, ripe, first thing in the morning, and I would have spent some time in that lesson, and I would have done flips and cartwheels and whatever I had to in my overcompensation in my failings today. That's the person that I am. But I'm going to have to say that can't be a bad trait to have, right? Because lots of times people make missteps. People step on other people's toes, right? People they go about their way not thinking about the consequences and right about other people waiting on them or how our actions words can affect other people, right? I think it's a good sign that I showed up anyway because it shows where my heart is, right? It shows I didn't have to. I missed July 31st. I could have easily not showed up, right? And without me saying anything, would anybody have noticed? I don't know. But I'm not willing to take that chance with one person who is looking to make a little bit of movement for themselves and you know they see that I don't show up and it's okay. I need to show up. It's not okay not to show up where it comes to my brand. Yes, I know. I know, Nancy. I know Nancy would have noticed, and Nancy would have given me heck in one of her gruffy, humorous, to the point kind of ways. And I would have gotten that message for sure, right? I'm not the only person holding myself up. I'm grateful that along the way that I've picked up people, right, like our Nancy here, who also lifts me up. And I'd like to think, right, in that evidence of me showing up that possibly I do that for her. I do that for her too. And I know, right? Nancy would have noticed. Nancy would have noticed for sure. A few people would have noticed for sure. Perseverance. Tonight, that perseverance is only in showing up. That's the lesson, right? We did never giving up, but that's a little bit different than showing up. It's important to show up. It's important to hold ourselves accountable, and that's the truth. And that was something that I had to learn, and that was something in the practicing. And I suspect, even though I practiced that one, and I could say and feel that I had that one down packed, right? But I still failed anyway in that. And I suspect that at some point I will fail again, and Nancy will shoot me an email to say, Cindy, we're waiting for you. Where are you? Or Kathy will do that, or Andrew will do that. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. But if I had gone to bed, I wouldn't have been listening to my messages tonight. So tonight, I had to show up for myself 100%, you know. So, in that perseverance, right? It's in no matter what. It's in the showing, it is in the showing up, right? Didn't give up on myself. I wouldn't give up in myself. But that perseverance, right? When nobody would have noticed, or if at least only a few might have noticed that I wouldn't have shown up, I would have noticed, right? And that would have put a little bit of a kink in the armor. Chink in the army, is that what they call it? I think it might have anyway, right? Because I will be giving it some thought. Things are changing. Things are always, always changing, right? And I feel that change in my system, and I feel that change in my life, and I feel that change in the way I feel and the way that I move, right? And sometimes it's in that wind down that we don't pay so much attention. Only because in that wind down, there really isn't that energy. And I think that prime example was me falling asleep at my desk tonight. But I showed up anyway. So you guys forgive me and giving me a little bit of break in that. I promise I'll do a little bit better by myself tomorrow and a little bit better by you guys tomorrow. Thank you, Nancy, for popping into my life and keeping me company, right? I don't like to fail myself, and I don't really like to fail, right? In front of others. And it's truly not a big deal. It's a big deal to me, but I think a lot of these things in our criticisms and those things that we hold ourselves, right? We make bigger deals about it because we have to, right? Right? We really have to because we are those examples for others. We know that. We know that we're the examples for others, right? And if you can't even be an example for you, can't even be an example for ourselves. What good are we going to be to anybody else, right? Right? So I'm going to ask for forgiveness in that. And I suspect it'll be given to me because I will take it as a lesson that change is coming and we're not going to keep things right till 5 minutes before it's time to go to bed, right? Right before I conk out. Can't I can't slip up like that, right? There is no need to slip up like that. So we're gonna make some adjustments in that 100%. Okay, you guys. It wasn't the way the live was supposed to go today. That's the way it goes. Because other parts of me are off doing something else. And sometimes that's the way it goes, right? I explore the inside and the outside. And I got a lesson tonight, and that's always a good thing. Everybody, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Nancy. Bye bye.